You're listening to an exclusive production from Valio, consumed by others' gold, the price of financial envy. Chapter 1. The allure of another's wealth. Recognizing the pull of comparison. The feeling begins as a faint current, almost undetectable, yet intensely magnetic. It is the immediate, visceral response you have when confronted with the visible success of others, the effortless ease of their financial stability, the obvious markers of their achievement, the kind of comfortable luxury that seems to float just out of your grasp. This is the allure of another's wealth, and it is far more than simple appreciation. It is an invitation to comparison, a dangerous, deeply seductive pull that demands your attention. Before any true transformation can begin, you must be ruthlessly honest about the nature of this pull. You must confront the simple, challenging fact that looking at what others possess often takes precedence over looking at what you are actively building. This is not a moral failing. It is a profound psychological mechanism that we must understand and neutralize. The comparison game is a thief of joy, a saboteur of focus, and an insidious dictate that secretly governs far too many of your choices, emotions, and ambitions. Think of that sudden moment of internal contraction. Perhaps it's a photograph of a colleague's new home, an article detailing a friend's investment returns, or the casual mention of a luxury vacation taken by someone you barely know. What happens inside you? There is often a flash of genuine admiration, quickly followed by a heavy, sinking feeling, a realization that your own life, your own progress, somehow falls short of that external metric. This immediate shift from neutral self-assessment to external validation is the unspoken contract of comparison. It is the agreement you unconsciously make to measure your internal worth by external, often carefully curated, evidence from another person's life. You are outsourcing your sense of peace and achievement to an unreliable, biased auditor. And this is the core reason why the pull of comparison is so incredibly destructive. It moves your internal center of gravity outside of yourself. When your sense of financial well-being, for instance, is constantly being calibrated against a moving external target, you can never truly feel secure. Even a significant achievement in your own life, a major pay rise, paying off a debt, starting a successful side venture, is instantly diminished the moment you scroll past someone else's even larger success. The magnetic pull of envy ensures that the finish line keeps moving, and your genuine efforts are perpetually rendered insufficient. The irony here is intense. The drive to succeed, the inherent ambition within you, is meant to fuel your own construction and growth. But when contaminated by the pull of comparison, that powerful drive becomes a chaotic, undirected force. Instead of fueling your vision, it compels you to react to theirs. Consider how this plays out in real-life decisions. You might be perfectly happy and financially stable pursuing a vocation you love, one that is aligned with your values. Then, you see an acquaintance achieve stunning material success in a field you find meaningless, perhaps a volatile, high-stakes career in finance. The magnetic pull kicks in. Suddenly, your steady, meaningful path feels dull, slow, and inadequate. You begin to question your choices. You might even pivot your career or investment strategy into areas you don't truly understand or enjoy, simply to chase the external gold you saw glinting in another person's hand. This shift is a profound act of self-betrayal. You are trading your authentic desire for a superficial imitation, driven purely by the fear of being left behind. This is why awareness of this obsession is the essential first step toward reclaiming your power, your focus, and your peace. You must become the ruthless observer of your own psychological landscape. Every time you feel that pull, that momentary flash of longing or dissatisfaction when looking at another's success, stop and label it. Do not judge it. Simply name it. Comparison, envy, longing, external fixation. By naming the mechanism, you instantly create distance from the emotion itself. You move from being the victim of the magnetic pull to being the analyst of the pull. This separation is your first step toward true sovereignty. Recognizing the allure means understanding its secret dictator status. This obsession quietly dictates your life in subtle ways. It dictates where you spend your time online, ensuring you are constantly monitoring the very people who make you feel inadequate. It dictates how you talk about money, causing you to downplay your own achievements or inflate your efforts to keep up appearances. It dictates your spending, often pushing you toward purchases. The luxury car, the expensive watch, the unnecessary upgrade, that are not about genuine desire or need, but are purely a social performance designed to signal parity with your perceived competition. These actions, driven by comparison, create a life that is out of alignment. You are living a financial life designed to impress an audience that often doesn't care, while neglecting the deep, personal goals that truly nourish your spirit. The cost is an erosion of internal peace and a constant, low-level anxiety driven by the need to maintain an external illusion. Your personal power is rooted in your capacity to focus. When you allow your gaze to be consistently drawn to the allure of another's wealth, you are draining your own energy reservoir. Imagine the hours you spend mentally replaying scenarios, analyzing their apparent luck, or planning your own countermove. This is mental labor that produces nothing for your actual life. It is the most costly form of intellectual procrastination. The act of reclaiming this power is simple, though not easy. It requires a radical shift in perspective from external comparison to internal creation. When you see something you admire in another person's financial life, instead of letting the feeling dissolve into vague envy, immediately engage your critical, powerful mind. Ask, what specific, actionable steps did they take to achieve that? What skill did they master? What period of uncomfortable effort did they endure? By focusing on the process rather than the product, you neutralize the emotional charge of the comparison. You transform the other person from an object of envy into a case study. Their success becomes not a reflection of your failure, but a piece of data that informs your own strategy. This is the mature, powerful way to handle the intense reality of others' achievements. Your unique ambition, when divorced from comparison, is the most powerful force you possess. It is the inner voice that knows exactly what you need for your fulfillment, not what society or social media dictates. You are here to build a life of deep meaning and true prosperity, defined solely by your own values and calibrated by your own standards. The first step in this journey of profound financial self-mastery is to simply look at the magnetic pull of comparison and say, I see you. Acknowledge its strength, understand its corrosive nature, and recognize that this awareness is the ultimate key to unlocking your true, focused power. You are now prepared to stop auditing others' success and start architecting your own. Take a deep breath. Where is the magnetic pull strongest for you right now? Name the person or the achievement that most often distracts you. Now, mentally draw a thick, solid line between their journey and yours. Your power returns the moment you commit to making your own progress, however steady or quiet, the only metric that truly matters. Chapter 2. Shadows of Jealousy. Understanding how envy sabotages success. The quietest dangers are always the most destructive. They operate in the shadows of your mind, invisible to the casual observer, yet they wield the power to sabotage your most genuine efforts. We are not speaking of external threats here. We are speaking of the shadow of jealousy, a deep, corrosive emotion that silently undermines your confidence, clouds your judgment, and erodes the very foundations of your relationships. In the first chapter, you acknowledge the magnetic pull of comparing your resources to others. Now we must take the necessary descent into the dark current of envy itself. This is not a comfortable journey, but it is an essential one. You cannot conquer an enemy you refuse to look in the eye, and the power of envy lies precisely in its ability to stay hidden, camouflaged as acceptable ambition or simple dissatisfaction. True envy is not the desire to have what another person has. That is simple longing, a feeling that can be channeled into productive effort. True envy is the quiet, internal desire for the other person not to have it. It is a zero-sum calculation performed by the wounded ego, where their success subtracts from your own worth. This is the shadow we must illuminate. Understanding how this emotion works is the first step toward preventing it from consuming your energy and sabotaging your genuine progress. Envy is a master of distraction. It pulls your focus off the fertile ground of your own path and rivets it onto the distant, often curated landscape of someone else's success. When your energy is fixated externally, your internal power to create is drastically diminished. You are giving your focus, your most valuable asset, away for free. Think of your personal focus as a high-powered beam of light. To build anything meaningful, a career, a business, a deep relationship, or a secure financial future, you must keep that beam steady and concentrated on your immediate tasks and long-term vision. Envy acts like a sudden, chaotic wind, constantly diverting that beam onto the screens and narratives of others. The moment you catch yourself obsessing over a competitor's funding, a friend's promotion, or a relative's sudden windfall, you are no longer building your own empire. You are simply auditing theirs. This diversion of focus is the primary mechanism by which envy sabotages success. Success is cumulative. It is built through thousands of small, unglamorous, consistent actions that require sustained attention. When you allow envy to interrupt your focus, you introduce inconsistency. You break the rhythm of your own creation. You stop planning your next move and start planning how to feel better about their last move. The destruction runs deeper than mere distraction. Envy poisons your decision-making. When operating from a place of inadequacy or resentment, the choices you make are not aligned with your true values or goals. They are reactive. You might take on a risky investment not because it's strategically sound for you, but because it feels like a fast, desperate catch-up to someone else's perceived leap forward. You might accept a lower-quality opportunity simply to prove you are busy and relevant. These reactive choices, born from the shadow of jealousy, inevitably lead to mistakes that slow your actual progress, creating the very gap you were desperate to close. Moreover, envy systematically undermines your confidence. The internal narrative of the envious person is one of inadequacy. You stop seeing your own efforts as valuable and start seeing them only in comparison to a distorted external metric. Every one of your achievements feels slightly tarnished because it is not that achievement, the one you see online or across the dinner table. This is a subtle but vicious form of self-sabotage. When you don't genuinely celebrate your own wins, you sap your motivation to pursue the next, larger challenge. You become perpetually dissatisfied, not because you lack success, but because your definition of success is being dictated by an external, unattainable standard. The most painful cost of this shadow is the damage it inflicts on relationships. True, powerful success is never built in isolation. It relies on alliances, mentorship, support, and the goodwill of a network. Envy corrodes these bonds from the inside. When you harbor resentment toward the success of a friend or colleague, your interactions become subtly guarded, competitive, and inauthentic. You may find yourself giving lukewarm congratulations, offering backhanded compliments, or unconsciously hoping for their stumble. This energy is palpable. People sense when they are not being genuinely supported and they naturally pull back. You isolate yourself, cutting off the very streams of insight, collaboration, and opportunity that successful people often share with those they trust and respect. Envy, in its deepest form, makes you an outsider looking in, convinced that the success of others is a direct threat to your own well-being. This is a profound error in perception. To step out of this destructive pattern, you must trace the emotion back to its source. Envy is rarely about the money, the house, or the title itself. It is almost always a mask for an unmet internal need, or an unacknowledged personal truth. Ask yourself, when I feel that sharp pang of jealousy, what is it truly about? Is it that I feel unseen? Is it a deep-seated fear that I don't have what it takes? Is it a regret that I didn't make a different decision 5 years ago? Is it a feeling of powerlessness that I am attempting to solve by focusing on the power others seem to possess? Often, the object of envy simply represents a quality you believe you lack or a choice you were afraid to make. The person you envy might not just have wealth. They might have courage, which allowed them to take a big risk, or discipline, which allowed them to execute on a tedious plan. Your envy is actually a hidden desire map. It tells you precisely which qualities you need to cultivate within yourself. Instead of looking at the other person and thinking, "I wish I had what they have," begin to rephrase the thought, "What internal shift or skill do I need to develop so that I can create a result that fulfills me?" The shadow of jealousy is trying to teach you about your own untapped potential, but its message is obscured by pain and resentment. Your work is to translate that pain into actionable insight. This deep psychological shift is the key to reclaiming your power. You stop being a passive spectator consumed by the fortunes of others and become the active, focused architect of your own. To solidify this mastery, practice conscious celebration of others' success. This is not about being superficially nice. It is a profound internal discipline. When you genuinely celebrate the achievement of another person, two things happen immediately. First, you break the zero-sum contract in your mind. You signal to your subconscious that success is abundant, not scarce. Second, you consciously rewire your emotional response. You link the sight of success not with pain and inadequacy, but with inspiration and possibility. You train your mind to see their win as proof that a similar win is possible for you. This simple, intentional shift redirects the flow of energy back toward the positive, fertile ground of your own ambition. The shadow of jealousy is a relentless saboteur because it keeps you from taking the necessary, unglamorous steps on your own path. It convinces you that the shortcut is available only to others. It whispers that your effort is meaningless compared to their immediate result. To silence this voice, you must commit to the integrity of your own effort. Focus on the process, not the external payoff. Find the deep satisfaction in the disciplined execution of your plan, your strategy, and your daily grind. When you are fully immersed in the creation of your own success, when your hands are busy shaping your own clay, you simply do not have the time, the energy, or the inclination to stare at someone else's finished statue. Your personal engagement with your own ambition becomes the impenetrable shield against the corrosive force of comparison. Do not let the shadow of jealousy own the narrative of your life. It is not a force that needs to be fought. It is a signal that needs to be understood. Use the intensity of the envious feeling as a spotlight to reveal the exact place where your ambition is currently being starved. Illuminate that need, name the quality you desire, and then turn all your attention, all your focus, back onto your own ground. The moment you decide to build your own well instead of obsessing over another's cistern, the cycle of sabotage ends and the true work of success begins. Chapter 3. Desire versus distraction. Distinguishing healthy ambition from destructive obsession. Ambition is a powerful, necessary force. It is the deep, restless energy within you that demands growth, mastery, and the full actualization of your potential. Without this inherent desire, you would settle for the mundane, allowing inertia to dictate your life's trajectory. The challenge, however, lies in learning to discern when this powerful engine of desire transforms into a blinding, consuming distraction. Not all desire is harmful. In its pure form, desire is the clear-eyed, focused intention to create something specific that aligns with your highest values. Destructive obsession, on the other hand, is a desperate, externalized longing, focused on symbols of success that belong to someone else. It is the energy of true creation diverted into the chaotic, meaningless act of chasing another person's reality. This chapter is about establishing a clear, internal boundary. You must learn to distinguish the heat of healthy ambition, which builds your internal empire, from the fever of destructive obsession, which burns down your focus and integrity. The key differentiator lies in the source of the energy. Healthy ambition is rooted in internal necessity. It asks, what must I do to feel fully expressed, useful, and secure according to my own private definition? This ambition is quiet, disciplined, and often invisible to the external world. It finds deep satisfaction in the process, the consistent effort, the strategic planning, the incremental gains. It builds wealth not just for show, but as a byproduct of solving genuine problems and creating real value. Destructive obsession, fueled by the comparison trap, is rooted in external validation. It asks, what do I need to acquire to prove my worth, to silence my inner critic, and to match or surpass the person I envy? This obsession is loud, performative, and impatient. It skips necessary steps, seeks shortcuts, and fixates on the outcome, the title, the number, the prestige, rather than the integrity of the work required to achieve it. When you are genuinely ambitious, you are focused on your path. You study your unique skills, you calculate your specific risks, and you move with a grounded, internal confidence. When you are destructively obsessed, you are focused on their map. You try to replicate someone else's journey without possessing their context, their connections, or their particular talents. This is why obsession with what isn't yours is a profound diversion of energy. You are attempting to run a race designed for another runner, guaranteeing failure or, at the very least, an outcome that leaves you feeling empty even if you win. To reclaim your focus, you must practice strategic redirection. The moment you feel that sharp, envious pang, that shift from admiring to agonizing, you must immediately channel that intense energy back to your own desk, your own project, your own financial plan. Think of the energy of obsession as raw, concentrated fuel. When it is allowed to linger on another person's fortune, it becomes toxic, producing resentment and paralysis. But when you redirect that same intensity back onto your own life, it transforms into relentless, potent clarity. How do you make this redirection practical? First, you must create a non-negotiable metric of success for your own life. Write it down. This metric must be entirely internal and immune to external data. For example, your metric might be, success is achieving 40 hours of deep, focused, creative work this week, or success is maintaining a monthly savings rate of 20%, regardless of what anyone else is doing. When you measure yourself against your own predetermined standard of effort and integrity, the achievements of others lose their power to wound or distract you. Second, you must learn to distinguish between the inspiration of possibility and the paralysis of imitation. True desire draws inspiration from a successful person. It acknowledges the proof that a high level of achievement is possible, and then it immediately translates that possibility into a unique strategy for yourself. You see their result and you think, if that level of focus can create that result for them, what focused action can create a fulfilling result for me? Imitation, born of obsession, skips the strategic translation. It simply tries to copy the external manifestation. It says, I must start that exact kind of business, or I must buy that exact stock, ignoring the core lesson of self-possession. Your most powerful asset is your unique vision. The profound risk of distraction is that it blinds you to your own true strengths. When you are constantly looking over your shoulder, you cannot see the path opening up directly in front of you, the path that is uniquely suited to your talents, your temperament, and your moment in time. The most valuable wealth is always built in the niche, the specific space where your ability intersects with true need. Destructive obsession forces you out of that specific niche and into a crowded, generic space defined by the perceived success of others. The ultimate goal here is to achieve psychological sovereignty over your own ambition. You want to be the sole authority determining what constitutes a win in your life. This requires an almost ruthless commitment to your own visionary integrity. Every time you feel the pull toward comparison, view it as a wake-up call, a notification that your energy is leaking. Use that intensity to fuel the immediate next step in your own plan. That means closing the browser, putting down the phone, and getting back to the granular, unglamorous work of building your own foundation. This commitment transforms the nature of your financial ambition. It moves from being a superficial race for status to becoming a disciplined pursuit of deep independence. You are no longer chasing the fleeting shimmer of gold in someone else's pocket. You are cultivating the deep, rich soil of your own capabilities. A life defined by authentic desire is a life of sustained effort and quiet power. A life defined by destructive obsession is a life of peaks of artificial intensity, followed by troughs of deep disappointment. The choice is always yours. Will you use your energy to chase an illusion, or will you channel your ambition toward the tangible, meaningful growth that only you can define and build? Channel the focus you are currently wasting on others' successes into a concentrated investigation of your own potential. Ask yourself, if I could never look at another person's financial situation again, what single goal would I relentlessly pursue? The answer to that question reveals the map to your true, undistracted ambition. Commit to following that map with the full force of your intense, focused will. Chapter 4. The Cost of Comparison. How Fixation on Others' Wealth Creates Loss. We have established the allure of external success and the destructive nature of obsession. Now we must face a deeper, more painful truth. Fixation on the wealth of others is not a passive mental habit. It is an active agent of loss in your own life. This fixation creates invisible debts, emotional, relational, and financial, that drain your resources and sabotage your actual net worth, both material and psychological. You might believe that staring at someone else's fortune is simply motivating, a source of healthy competition. But when that gaze becomes fixation, it ceases to be motivation and becomes a leak in your energy system. This leak represents the true, hidden cost of comparison. Let us dissect the three main categories of loss this fixation inflicts. The first and most immediate debt is emotional loss. When you fixate on another's perceived financial freedom, you willingly surrender your own peace of mind. Peace is your most valuable internal currency. It is the steady foundation upon which all clear thinking, sound decision-making, and consistent effort is built. When you are caught in the comparison loop, you are perpetually destabilized. Every achievement you see elsewhere acts like a small, sharp blow to your self-esteem, injecting anxiety and inadequacy into your day. This emotional turmoil is not free. It costs you the ability to enjoy your own current progress. You are unable to truly rest, unable to feel genuine satisfaction, because a part of your mind is constantly calculating the distance between where you are and where you perceive them to be. This constant state of internal tension leads to fatigue, burnout, and a deep, gnawing sense of emptiness. You are paying a daily emotional tax to maintain the illusion of inadequacy. This tax is an unsustainable debt. The second area of profound damage is relational loss. As we discussed, envy poisons the well of collaboration and goodwill, but the cost is more subtle than just severed ties. Fixation on external wealth warps the way you evaluate others. You begin to categorize people not by their character, their integrity, or their shared values, but by their net worth and visible success markers. This judgmental lens diminishes the quality of your own network. You may gravitate toward alliances based purely on perceived financial opportunity, abandoning deep, supportive relationships that lack that material shimmer. You might push away allies who are moving slower than you, or, worse, resent those who move faster. You create a transactional, insecure social environment where trust is scarce. Since almost all massive financial success is built through deep trust, reliable partners, and genuine goodwill, this relational debt actively hinders your ability to build true, sustainable wealth. You isolate yourself from the very resources, intellectual, emotional, and social, that facilitate growth. The third and most tangible loss is financial loss itself. This manifests in two critical ways: opportunity cost and reactive spending. The opportunity cost is the silent killer. When your mind is consumed by the analysis of someone else's investments, market timing, or business model, you are actively neglecting the rigorous, focused diligence required for your own financial plan. The time spent scrolling through a rival's portfolio is time not spent analyzing your own budget, mastering your own skill, or seeking a genuine growth opportunity aligned with your expertise. The greatest wealth is often found in the deliberate, unglamorous execution of a long-term plan. Fixation on others encourages impulsive, reactive bets meant to catch up, which usually leads to avoidable losses. Furthermore, fixation leads directly to reactive spending, often known as lifestyle inflation driven by ego. You make purchases not because they enhance your life, but because they are a defense mechanism against perceived inferiority. You buy the expensive car, the lavish trip, or the trendy piece of technology because these external symbols provide a temporary narcotic against the pain of comparison. This spending erodes your savings rate, increases your debt load, and traps you in a cycle where you must earn more simply to maintain an appearance, not to achieve true freedom. Every dollar spent to appease your competitive ego is a dollar subtracted from your future security. To protect yourself from these invisible debts, you must implement a powerful internal shield. This shield is radical focus on sufficiency. You must define with absolute clarity what sufficient wealth means for your life, separate from the external noise. Sufficiency is the point where your core needs, security, purpose, and independence, are met. It is the moment you can say, I have enough to pursue my work with integrity and protect my freedom. This number is almost always lower than the number required to impress the people you envy. By defining your own sufficiency, you fundamentally change the game. You stop playing the infinite game of comparison and start playing the finite game of achieving personal liberation. The moment you achieve your sufficiency goal, every dollar earned afterward is purely for expansion, joy, and legacy, not for status or defense. Your relentless, probing nature must be turned inward now to scrutinize your spending habits. Ask, is this purchase a genuine investment in my future, my well-being, or my work? Or is this purchase a trophy meant to silently signal my worth to an external audience? Be mercilessly honest in your assessment. Any expenditure driven by the need to signal status is a financial cost rooted in emotional debt. Protecting your energy is the ultimate act of financial intelligence. Your emotional energy and focus are finite resources. Every second you spend calculating someone else's worth is a second you could have spent creating your own. Stop giving away your power and attention for free. The true path to strength is found not in avoiding the dark reality of comparison, but in using the awareness of that darkness to illuminate the integrity of your own path. Recognize the hidden costs, understand the debts they impose, and commit to ending the insidious exchange of your peace for a fleeting moment of external validation. Your sovereignty demands that you operate from a place of internal wealth, where your value is non-negotiable and unassailable by the achievements of others. You must become the sole, undisputed master of your financial narrative. The only true measure of wealth is the freedom you possess, not the possessions you acquire. Commit to building a life so intensely focused on your own purpose that the fortunes of others become nothing more than distant, irrelevant background noise. Chapter 5. Breaking the Cycle. Escaping Patterns of Jealousy and Distrust. The deep, unsettling truth about obsession and comparison is that they rarely represent a single incident. They are almost always a pattern. Like a recurring shadow cast over your brightest ambitions, the cycle of longing, resentment, and distraction attempts to trap you in an endless loop of unfulfilled desire and self-sabotage. To break free and reclaim your focus, You must initiate a radical cycle of rebirth and renewal within your own psyche. Breaking this cycle is not a matter of trying harder. It is a profound act of letting go. You must dismantle the old architecture of scarcity and distrust that currently dictates your reactions. The first step in this transformative cycle is the death of the old narrative. The pattern of jealousy is sustained by a core internal narrative, a story you constantly tell yourself, often unconsciously. This story usually sounds something like, "The universe is rigged, resources are finite, if someone else wins, I lose, I am fundamentally behind and I must catch up." This is the narrative of scarcity, and it is a toxic lie that fuels every subsequent envious thought. To break the cycle, you must consciously identify and annihilate this story. When you catch yourself comparing, do not simply try to suppress the feeling. Instead, confront the underlying narrative. Ask, what deep-seated belief about my own worth or the nature of abundance is this feeling defending? You will find that the comparison is merely the symptom. The scarcity narrative is the root illness. The moment you name the narrative, you strip it of its power. You must then consciously replace it with a new, empowering truth. Success is not a finite resource. Your worth is inherent, not acquired. Another person's achievement is not proof of your lack. It is only proof of possibility. This internal shift, this conscious letting go of the old scarcity myth, is the necessary death that precedes renewal. The second stage is the desired isolation of insight. The cycle of envy thrives on external noise and constant visibility. Social media, news, and even well-meaning conversations can act as continuous triggers, pulling you back into the comparison trap. To break the pattern, you must initiate a period of deep, intentional psychological, and at times physical isolation. This isn't about running away from the world. It's about creating an internal fortress where your thoughts can be clarified and your focus can be stabilized. Sever the sources of contamination. If a specific feed, person, or ritual consistently triggers the resentment loop, you must cut that cord with surgical precision. This requires the kind of uncompromising discipline that defines true personal power. Use this deliberate solitude to turn your intense, probing focus entirely inward. The goal is to move beyond the superficial feeling of envy and arrive at the deeper root of distrust. Who do you truly distrust when you see another person succeed? Often it is not them, it is yourself. You distrust your own capacity, your own judgment, or your own resilience. By spending time in this focused isolation, you move past the distraction of others' gold and confront the gold you are actively withholding from yourself. Your uncultivated talents, your unstated boundaries, or your unexecuted plan. This self-confrontation is the crucible of change. The third stage is the commitment to unbreakable focus. Obsession is a fragmented, chaotic energy. Renewal demands that this energy be channeled into a single, unbreakable stream of focus toward your own goals. This requires establishing rhythms of effort that are immune to external stimuli. Design your daily routine so that the first hour of your workday and the last hour of your evening are dedicated solely to the most important, high-leverage activities related to your own vision. These blocks of time are sacred. They are the non-negotiable boundaries of your ambition. When you anchor your days in focused creation, the cycle of comparison loses its entry point. You simply become too busy building your own world to spend time monitoring theirs. This is where you must convert the intensity of the envy you once felt into relentless execution. Every time the old impulse to look outside yourself surfaces, view it as a burst of untapped fuel. Immediately, and without hesitation, channel that intense energy into the next tangible, concrete step on your own path, whether it's writing that proposal, calling that client, or reviewing that spreadsheet. The energy of resentment is transformed into the energy of momentum. The final stage is rising anew with sovereign trust. Breaking the cycle culminates in a powerful sense of self-trust. When you have consciously slain the scarcity narrative, protected your focus through isolation, and channeled your intensity into consistent execution, you emerge from the shadow transformed. Your confidence is no longer fragile or conditional upon external validation. It is forged in the fire of your own disciplined effort. You realize that the only person you are truly competing with is the version of yourself who chooses distraction and distrust. The renewal is the realization that your ultimate security lies not in the size of your bank account today, but in the unwavering resilience of your character and the integrity of your work. This resilience is the greatest wealth you can possess. It means you can withstand market volatility, professional setbacks, and the unavoidable sight of others' success without losing your internal center. You have broken the pattern. You have let go of the corrosive need to audit others, and you have risen anew as the undisputed authority over your own ambition and your own destiny. The journey is not about eliminating the possibility of comparison. It is about establishing a sovereign internal power strong enough to render those external signals irrelevant. Stop being trapped in the ghost life of others' expectations. Your freedom is found in the discipline of your focus, and your ultimate power lies in your unshakable trust in your own capacity to build, rebuild, and continuously rise. Chapter 6. Secrets Behind the Spark. Discovering what drives envy. Envy, in its rawest form, is not the end point of an emotion. It is merely the visible spark of a much deeper fire burning beneath the surface. If you are to achieve true mastery over this corrosive feeling, you must become the unflinching psychological investigator, moving past the superficial pain of comparison to discover the secrets behind the spark, the hidden desires and profound insecurities that actually fuel your fixation on another's wealth. Most people stop at the feeling of envy, focusing only on the object. The money, the title, the acquisition. But your work, the deep, transformative work, requires you to focus on the subject, the internal landscape that makes you vulnerable to that spark. Envy is almost always a mask, a loud, distracting performance designed by the ego to avoid confronting a much quieter, more painful truth about yourself. What are the secrets that drive this fixation? The first secret is unacknowledged power. Often, the intense fixation on another's financial success is not about their gold, but about the power that gold seems to confer. You see their wealth and interpret it as complete freedom, total control, and unassailable authority. Your envy is actually a deep, visceral longing for that same sense of mastery in your own life. The secret behind the spark, then, is that you are unconsciously denying your own capacity for power. Instead of identifying the specific steps you could take to reclaim control over your own career, income, or time, you project all that agency onto the person you envy. They become the symbol of the power you believe you lack. The moment you stop projecting that power outward and accept that the same reservoir of control exists within you, the envious spark begins to fade. The crucial question to ask is, what tangible power or control do I believe this person possesses that I am actively choosing not to claim in my own life? The answer will point not to their fortune, but to your own internal hesitation. The second secret is unmet needs for security and recognition. Financial envy frequently masks core human needs that are going unfulfilled. These are the twin desires for unassailable security and genuine recognition. When you obsess over someone's massive investment portfolio or stable inheritance, the true yearning is often for the feeling of safety, the knowledge that no market crash or personal setback could ever threaten your fundamental well-being. This is a legitimate need. However, by fixating on an external symbol of security, you ignore the internal, actionable steps you could take right now to create a psychological and financial safety net, building an emergency fund, diversifying your skills, or reducing your fixed expenses. Similarly, Fixation on someone's prestigious title or public-facing wealth often masks a deeper need for recognition, the desire to be seen, valued, and respected for your talents. The wealth becomes a proxy for the validation you crave. The secret here is that external validation is a shallow pool that will never quench your thirst. True, sustainable recognition comes only from the quality and integrity of your work, and the respect you earn from those who truly know you. Envy pushes you to seek the empty applause of strangers. Genuine ambition guides you toward the profound respect of your peers. The third, and perhaps most painful, secret is the fear of necessary risk and loss. Every significant financial success involves a period of intense vulnerability, calculated risk, and the courage to endure potential loss. The person you envy, regardless of how easy their success looks now, almost certainly faced periods of extreme uncertainty. Your obsession with their finished result may be a way of avoiding the uncomfortable truth that to achieve a breakthrough, you must also step into a zone of high risk. You cling to the comparison because it allows you to stay safe, justifying your own inaction by focusing on their supposed unfair advantage. Envy here serves as a powerful defense mechanism against taking the necessary leap. You are saying, I can't take that risk because I don't have their perfect starting conditions, when the truth is, you are simply afraid of the potential fall. The secret behind the spark is that your deepest desire is your greatest fear. You desire the massive success, but you fear the vulnerability required to chase it. By focusing on their life, you avoid the hard task of owning your fear and moving forward despite it. To transform this destructive obsession into actionable clarity, you must now turn the probing lens of your intensity on these secrets. You must convert the energy of envy into a motivation for internal restructuring. When the spark ignites, your immediate action is to decode the impulse. Do not allow the feeling to remain a vague resentment. Pinpoint its true message. If the envy is about their freedom of time, the message is, you need to redesign your current commitments and prioritize your schedule. If the envy is about their prestige, the message is, you need to commit to the highest quality of work in your niche and stop hiding your light. If the envy is about their apparent safety, the message is, you need to build your own financial foundation with disciplined savings and strategic planning. The energy of obsession is not wasted. It is simply misdirected. It is pure motivational fuel. Your task is to install the correct internal mechanism to redirect this energy towards solving your own core problems, rather than simply lamenting the perceived solutions of others. By confronting these secrets, your unacknowledged power, your unmet needs, and your fear of risk, you strip envy of its mask. It ceases to be a powerful adversary and becomes a simple, clear piece of instructional data. You gain insight into your most profound motivations, turning a harmful obsession into a precise, actionable clarity that defines your next, most powerful move. You are not meant to live in the shadow of others' achievements. You are meant to be the master architect of your own. The fire of envy, once contained and consciously focused, becomes the transformative heat required to forge your own sovereign success. Use this new clarity to determine the single most impactful action you will take right now to claim the power and security you once projected onto someone else. Chapter 7. Reclaiming Personal Power, Shifting Focus from Others to Self. The journey through the shadows of comparison culminates in one ultimate act, reclaiming personal power. You have diagnosed the infection of envy, understood its sabotaging mechanisms, and uncovered the hidden fears that fuel its spark. Now, the work shifts entirely to the construction of your own sovereignty. True influence and lasting success emerge not from monitoring the world, but from rigorously mastering your own path. This reclamation demands a profound and uncompromising shift in focus, a complete withdrawal of your emotional and mental energy from the fortunes of others, and a radical reinvestment in yourself. The first step in reclaiming power is establishing psychological sovereignty. This is the internal declaration that you are the sole and undisputed authority over your thoughts, feelings, and ambitions. You must create an internal boundary that says, "My feelings of worth are non-negotiable and non-conditional." No external event, a rival's IPO, a colleague's bonus, or a friend's early retirement, has the power to alter your fundamental belief in your own capacity. This is a daily discipline. When a triggering piece of information enters your awareness, your immediate, automatic response must no longer be comparison, but curiosity about your own next action. If you see a major success, do not allow the thought to linger on them. Immediately pivot and ask, what is the single highest leverage task I can execute right now to advance my own goals? By anchoring your emotional response to action instead of reaction, you reassert control over your internal state. You move from the position of a passive observer to that of an active creator. The second, non-negotiable element of reclaiming power is autonomy over your financial narrative. The destructive cycle of envy feeds on the adoption of external standards for financial well-being. To break this, you must meticulously redefine what wealth means to you, personally. True financial power isn't a dollar amount. It is the ability to make choices aligned with your values. For one person, it might be the power to work remotely and travel. For another, it might be the power to fund a passion project or retire early to focus on family. You must write your own definition, one that is entirely divorced from the visible signifiers of status. When you define wealth internally, others' displays of gold lose their mesmerizing quality because they are simply operating off a different, irrelevant script. This requires a deep dive into your own values. What do you truly desire your money to do for you? Security, time, freedom. When you have this clarity, every financial decision becomes a statement of your personal authority, not a response to external pressure. You are no longer chasing, you are designing. The third stage is mastering the alchemy of effort. Envy is a chaotic energy. Personal power is focused intensity. You must channel your intents, probing nature into the mastery of a specific skill or domain that is uniquely yours. Your focus is your greatest source of leverage. When you pour all your intense scrutiny into perfecting your craft, into understanding your market, and into providing unmatched value, two things happen. First, the sheer absorption of the effort leaves no mental space for external fixation. You are too engaged in the creation process to be distracted. Second, mastery generates an internal, unshakable confidence that no amount of external comparison can erode. Your results become a direct, undeniable reflection of your intentional effort. This is the shift from being consumed by results to being committed to process. Results are fleeting and susceptible to market forces and luck. Process is fully within your control. Reclaiming power means accepting that your greatest asset is your capacity for disciplined, sustained effort. To practically implement this shift, institute a zero-tolerance policy for psychic leakage. This means actively guarding your attention. If you find yourself consistently drawn to certain social media accounts, news headlines about success stories that trigger envy, or conversations that revolve around competitive materialism, you must aggressively remove those inputs. Your time and attention are finite resources that must be dedicated to your own construction. Every minute spent consuming others' narratives is a minute stolen from building your own. This protective measure is not an act of weakness or avoidance. It is an act of strategic self-preservation. It allows you to maintain the high-frequency internal signal required for deep work and breakthrough creativity. Finally, reclaiming personal power is fundamentally about owning your vulnerability. The core driver of envy is a sense of inadequacy or fear. When you confront the reality of your own journey, the mistakes you've made, the risks you're currently facing, and the inherent challenges of your chosen path, You strip the shadows of their power. True power isn't about appearing impervious. It is about being resilient. It means acknowledging the inherent difficulties of building anything worthwhile and choosing to move forward anyway. This radical self-acceptance is the final, unassailable defense against comparison. When you fully own your own story, in all its complexity and vulnerability, the glamour of another person's story fades completely. Your intensity, once projected outward as judgmental envy, is now turned inward, fueling your unwavering self-possession. You are no longer striving for external validation. You are living a life aligned with internal truth. This radical shift from outer focus to inner mastery is the only source of enduring wealth and freedom. Go forward now and build on your own ground with the full force of your liberated attention. Chapter 8. Aligning ambition with purpose. Turning longing into intentional action. We have spent significant energy dismantling the corrosive force of envy and reclaiming your personal focus. The natural, intense energy that fueled that destructive comparison must now be redirected. This energy, once a chaotic longing for what was not yours, is the raw material for genuine growth. The crucial transformative act is aligning ambition with purpose, turning that vague, external longing into clear, intentional action rooted in your deepest personal values. Pure ambition, unburdened by envy, is the engine of a meaningful life. When this ambition finds its anchor in a profound purpose, it becomes unstoppable, immune to the distractions of superficial success. The first step in this alignment is to establish purpose as the primary filter. Your purpose is not a grand, abstract mission statement written for a company. It is the unshakable core reason why you dedicate your life and your resources to a particular pursuit. It is the underlying truth that guides your effort. Without this clarity, ambition is merely a high-speed vehicle without a map, destined to crash into the walls of comparison. Ask yourself, with the deepest sincerity, if all external recognition were stripped away, if the wealth was invisible, what impact would I still relentlessly pursue? The answer to that question reveals the true north of your ambition. For example, if you formerly envied someone's massive portfolio, the longing was for their financial freedom. Your true purpose might be creating enduring security and legacy for your family. The moment you define this purpose, the focus shifts entirely from their portfolio's size to the strategic, disciplined, and personalized actions required to build your legacy. Their method becomes irrelevant. Your intentional action becomes everything. The second critical act is the decryption of desire. The longing you felt when consumed by others' gold was a form of code, hiding your true, authentic desires. You must now decrypt that code. Every instance of past envy must be consciously reinterpreted and transformed into a constructive plan of action. Remember a specific recent instance where you felt the spark of envy. Instead of dwelling on the feeling, break it down. 1. Identify the surface object. Was it their brand new, expensive vacation home? 2. Uncover the core longing. The longing wasn't for the house, but for the feeling it represented. Uninterrupted rest, peace, and the ability to choose your environment. 3. Translate to intentional action. How can you create that core feeling, not the object, using your current resources and trajectory? The intentional action might be: aggressively automate 20% of my income into a dedicated sabbatical fund and schedule 3 mandatory, fully disconnected, long weekends this year. This process surgically removes the poisonous element of comparison and retains only the pure, potent seed of intentionality. You are no longer chasing symbols. You are constructing emotional and financial realities that directly serve your purpose. The third element of alignment is fostering unwavering integrity in action. Ambition driven by comparison often leads to compromise, cutting corners, inflating promises, or adopting ethical flexibility to achieve a quick, visible win. This is a fatal flaw. True, lasting wealth and personal mastery are built on an unassailable foundation of integrity. When ambition is aligned with purpose, the how becomes as important as the what. You commit to pursuing your goals with total honesty, diligence, and respect for your own values. This integrity is not just a moral principle, it is a powerful strategic advantage. It minimizes risk, builds deep and reliable trust with partners, and ensures that the success you achieve is one you can genuinely own and defend without psychological debt. This requires you to scrutinize your daily actions. Are you taking the path of least resistance for a short-term gain, or the path of highest integrity for a long-term foundation? Purpose-driven ambition always chooses the latter, recognizing that compromise is a hidden form of self-sabotage. Finally, you must master the art of process commitment. Obsession fixates on the destination, the final, gleaming object of desire. Purpose-aligned ambition fixates on the fidelity of the journey. The joy and power must be found in the consistent, high-quality execution of the daily steps required to fulfill your purpose. Commit to the tedious, unglamorous work. Embrace the discipline of showing up, planning strategically, and reviewing your progress against your own metrics. When you are deeply engaged in the creative process, the visibility of others' outcomes becomes irrelevant. Your satisfaction is derived from your internal commitment to excellence, not external approval. By consciously redirecting the intense, driving force of longing toward intentional, purposeful action, you transform your entire trajectory. You move from being a restless consumer of others' stories to a focused producer of your own sovereign reality. Your most profound power lies not in the desire for what you lack, but in the focused discipline toward what you are uniquely capable of building. Anchor your intense ambition in your purpose today. Define the next 3 intentional actions that move you toward your sovereignty, and commit to executing them with unwavering focus. The fulfillment you seek is not found at the destination of someone else's map. It is forged on the path you choose and build for yourself. Chapter 9. Emotional Mastery over Envy, Transforming Jealousy into Insight. We have established the path to reclaiming focus and aligning ambition with purpose. Yet even with the clearest intention, the emotional turbulence of comparison, the flash of jealousy, the sting of inadequacy, will inevitably surface. Emotional mastery is not the elimination of these intense feelings, but the conscious ability to manage them, transforming that raw, disruptive energy into insight, resilience, and clarity in decision-making. Envy is a powerful teacher, but only if you approach it with the probing, unflinching mindset of a master psychologist. When the sharp edge of jealousy strikes, most people either suppress it, allowing the toxicity to fester internally, or they act out impulsively, rushing to prove their worth. Your path to mastery demands a different response, radical psychological interception. The first step in this mastery is the immediate containment of the impulse. The moment you feel the spike of envy, you must impose an immediate mental boundary. Do not allow the feeling to spin into a destructive internal dialogue about your failures or the unfairness of the world. Instead, view the feeling as a sudden, intense surge of energy that must be immediately captured and redirected. Physically, this can be a simple, deep, centering breath or a conscious shift of your gaze away from the external trigger. Psychologically, it is the declaration: I acknowledge this intense energy. I will not use it to self-sabotage. This containment stops the emotional leakage and creates the necessary space between the stimulus, their success, and your response, your action. The second, most critical step is decoding the emotional data. You must treat the intense feeling of jealousy not as a negative flaw, but as a rich, personalized piece of instructional data about your inner life. Envy tells you precisely where your deepest desires and vulnerabilities intersect. You must ask the feeling with intense curiosity: what specific value of mine does this person's success seem to violate or negate? Is it a belief about fairness or hard work or recognition? What action, skill, or trait does their result highlight that I am currently neglecting in myself? Is it their discipline, their risk tolerance, their networking ability, or their consistency? The intensity of the jealousy acts as a spotlight, revealing a specific gap between your current reality and your desired future. If you envy their professional authority, the insight is that you need to invest in a specific expertise. If you envy their quiet confidence, the insight is that you need to dedicate time to internal, focused work that builds genuine self-trust. By decoding the impulse, you transform a debilitating emotion into a precise operational objective. The third act of mastery is building emotional resilience through acceptance. The underlying pain of envy often comes from the refusal to accept the current reality of your own journey. We want immediate, flawless success, and the sight of another's finished product makes us feel like failures in the middle of our own process. Emotional mastery requires accepting the discomfort of the gap. Accept that your current position is temporary. Accept that true success takes time, requires messy, imperfect effort, and will not always look glamorous to the outside world. This acceptance is not resignation. It is a profound act of strength. It is choosing to be resilient, the ability to be fully present in the difficult, ongoing process of building, rather than continually seeking the easy validation of a finished product. This resilience is forged by celebrating the integrity of your effort above all else. When jealousy strikes, immediately counter it by reviewing your own most recent, disciplined action. I felt the sting, but I executed my plan this week. I stayed within budget. I delivered quality work. These small, undeniable truths fortify your inner structure against the external pressure of comparison. The final stage is integration into decision-making. Once the intense energy of envy has been decoded and your resilience has been reaffirmed, the resulting insight must be immediately integrated into your strategic planning. Emotional mastery over envy means using the energy to refine your decisions. If the insight revealed a need for more specialized knowledge, you don't just feel bad about it. You immediately sign up for the course or buy the books. If the insight revealed a lack of market visibility, you schedule time to create a deliberate public-facing plan. The intense emotion is metabolized into focused, intentional decision-making. This transformation of turbulence into clarity is the highest form of self-mastery. You no longer fear the intense feelings because you recognize them as necessary indicators, signals that point directly toward your next growth frontier. Embrace the intensity of your emotions. Do not try to gentle them or wish them away. Use the heat of jealousy as the forging fire to temper your own ambition, turning transient emotional pain into enduring psychological resilience and strategic clarity. Your power is found in your ability to control the direction of your internal currents, not in denying their existence. Chapter 10. The Alchemy of Self-Sufficiency. Creating Independence from Comparison. The ultimate goal of this journey is not just managing an emotion. It is achieving complete self-sufficiency, a state of profound internal and external independence that renders the need for comparison obsolete. This is the alchemy of self-sufficiency, the transformation of the external pressure of envy into an unshakable internal sense of personal power, focus, and confidence. Self-sufficiency in this context is not merely financial. It is the deep realization that all the resources you need to achieve your fulfillment reside within your own sphere of influence. You cease to be a vessel constantly seeking to be filled by external validation, and you become a wellspring, generating your own value and security from within. The first step in this alchemy is the forging of emotional independence. As long as your internal peace relies on external metrics, someone else's lack of success, or your perception of being ahead, you are emotionally dependent. Emotional independence requires you to sever that fragile link. You must cultivate a private metric of worth that is impervious to public opinion or visible fortune. This internal metric is built on personal integrity and consistent effort. Your worth is measured by how faithfully you adhere to your own values, how diligently you execute your own plan, and how honestly you respond to your own challenges. When you derive your sense of identity from this unwavering internal fidelity, the sight of another person's high-status purchase or massive windfall evokes no emotional response beyond neutral observation. You recognize it for what it is, a display on an entirely separate stage, and you remain focused on your own performance. This is the creation of a psychological fortress. The walls of this fortress are built with disciplined focus, and the garrison is maintained by radical self-acceptance. Inside this space, the currency is your own conviction, not the market's opinion. The second crucial step is building strategic self-reliance in wealth. While we have established that financial wealth is not the sole goal, building a resilient financial life is a powerful tool for independence. Self-reliance in wealth means that your financial strategy is custom-built for your specific life, values, and risk tolerance, and it is not a reaction to what others are doing. This requires rigorous, unbiased analysis of your own situation. You must ruthlessly cut away any spending or investment choices that are driven by the need to signal status or keep up appearances. Every dollar redirected from ego spending to independence building, savings, skill acquisition, debt reduction is a dose of pure self-sufficiency. You must design a system where your income streams and safety nets are diverse and personally controlled. You focus on mastering a high-value skill that the market truly needs, ensuring your expertise is the source of your security, not the job title or the company brand. You focus on ownership of your time, your intellectual property, and your equity, because ownership is the ultimate form of independence. This strategic depth ensures that your security is rooted in your capacity, not in favorable external conditions. The third element is the cultivation of focused confidence. Obsession with others is a desperate attempt to find a blueprint for success. Self-sufficiency recognizes that your own blueprint is your greatest competitive advantage. Focused confidence comes from knowing that the world rewards originality, depth, and unique value. Stop looking for the generic, proven path. Instead, pour your intense, probing attention into uncovering and leveraging your unique intersection of talents, experiences, and perspective. What problem can only you solve with your specific blend of skills? What angle has only your perspective revealed? When you operate from this unique position of strength, you move beyond competition and into the realm of sovereign creation. This confidence is quiet, unshakable, and has no need to boast. It is the profound internal assurance that you are operating at the peak of your personal effectiveness, and that over time, sustained, original effort always compounds into undeniable success. The final act of this alchemy is transcending the zero-sum game. The core lie of comparison is that success is scarce. True self-sufficiency is a state of mindful abundance. You recognize that your success does not depend on anyone else's failure, and conversely, their success does not diminish your potential. This mental shift is freeing. It allows you to genuinely celebrate the achievements of others, seeing them as data points of possibility, not points of personal pain. You are no longer threatened by their light. You are simply inspired to shine your own. This generous, abundant mindset opens you up to collaboration, opportunity, and the flow of goodwill, further increasing your actual, tangible success. By cultivating independence and unwavering self-reliance, you transform the destructive energy of envy into a source of profound empowerment. You become the master of your internal environment, immune to the storms of external comparison. Your life is your own creation, defined by your purpose, supported by your discipline, and measured only by your fidelity to your deepest self. The freedom from comparison is the ultimate financial and emotional return on investment. Chapter 11. Shadows Integrated. Embracing all facets of desire and growth. You have traversed the landscape of comparison and forged a path towards self-sufficiency. The final stage of this psychological mastery is not the eradication of the shadow, but its integration. This means embracing all facets of desire and growth, acknowledging both your intense ambition and your profound vulnerability, and using the insight gained from past envy to achieve a mindset of clarity, intentionality, and personal sovereignty. Integration is the realization that the shadow, the jealousy, the longing, the fear of inadequacy, is not an enemy to be exiled, but a powerful, necessary part of your whole self that contains vital, compressed energy. When integrated, the intense heat of these emotions ceases to be destructive and becomes a constant source of self-awareness and motive power. The first principle of integration is acknowledging the shadow's instruction. The feelings of envy and longing were simply the intense, distorted language your subconscious used to communicate unmet needs. Integration means consciously giving a place to this language. Instead of feeling shame when a comparison flares up, you should greet it with quiet, ruthless curiosity. You accept it as a temporary, intense indicator light. When the shadow speaks, you respond. Thank you for the signal. What unaddressed need for power, security, or recognition are you highlighting right now? By consistently translating the emotional sting into a practical question, you strip the shadow of its emotional control and convert it into a permanent data source. You realize that even your deepest, darkest desires can be used for growth when handled consciously and intentionally. The second facet of integration is embracing vulnerability as the source of strength. The intense pressure to appear successful, to match the gold of others, stems from a deep fear of being seen as vulnerable or lacking. The integrated self understands that true power is not the absence of vulnerability, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Vulnerability means accepting that your current process is imperfect, your finances are exposed to risk, and your success is not guaranteed. When you stop fighting this reality and accept the messiness of creation, you become instantly more resilient. Why? Because you are no longer spending vast amounts of energy maintaining a flawless external facade. All that conserved energy is redirected to the actual, tangible work of building. Embracing vulnerability allows you to be genuinely open to receiving help, constructive criticism, and the insights of others, including the successful people you once envied. You see their journey not as a threat, but as a source of hard-won wisdom that can save you time and mistakes. This open, powerful stance is the hallmark of a sovereign individual who is secure enough to learn from all sources. The third stage is achieving intentionality in every acquisition. An integrated mindset means that every financial decision and every acquisition must pass the test of purpose-driven intentionality. You no longer acquire things to soothe the shadow, as a defensive response to comparison, or to perform for an external audience. You acquire them because they are necessary tools for fulfilling your core purpose. When considering a major purchase or investment, the internal question is no longer, do I need this to keep up? But rather, does this acquisition significantly advance my defined freedom, security, or purpose? If the answer is no, and the purchase is only for status, it is rejected. This disciplined filter ensures that your resources are used exclusively to build your own sovereign reality, creating a financial life that is clean, focused, and utterly free from the corruption of external pressure. This integrated focus allows you to feel genuine, deep satisfaction in what you have, because everything in your life is there by conscious design, not by anxious reaction. The final act of integration is sovereign trust. Integration culminates in a powerful, unwavering trust in the continuity of your own process. You trust your ambition, even when it is quiet and unglamorous. You trust your capacity to earn, save, and rebuild, even after a setback. You trust your own internal compass, even when it points in a direction opposite to the popular trend. This sovereign trust is your ultimate source of wealth. It is the deep-seated knowledge that your value is not external in the assets you own, but internal in the mastery you possess over yourself. You recognize that the journey of growth is cyclical, demanding continuous letting go and rising anew. The shadow once feared is now understood as the necessary tension that drives the entire magnificent cycle forward. You have integrated the shadow. You have embraced the full, intense spectrum of your desires. You are no longer chasing the gold of others. You are fully engaged in the high-stakes, deeply rewarding work of forging your own self-defined destiny. The power you once wasted on comparison is now fully invested in the intentional creation of a sovereign, resilient, and deeply fulfilling life. Chapter 12. Sovereign Wealth. Living with Mastery, Focus, and Freedom. This is the culmination of your journey. You have moved through the shadows of comparison, confronted the corrosive nature of envy, and meticulously rebuilt your internal architecture. You stand now on the firm, self-created ground of sovereign wealth. This wealth is not measured by external accounts or visible acquisitions. It is the ultimate, unassailable mastery you hold over your focus, your ambitions, and your emotional energy. It is freedom. Living with sovereign wealth means approaching your financial life and your personal ambitions with an unbroken focus that is immune to external noise, a balance that honors your purpose, and an emotional intelligence that transforms obstacles into fuel. The first mark of this sovereignty is unwavering focus as your primary asset. You have successfully withdrawn your energy from the external audit of others' lives. Your focus is now a deep, intense beam directed solely toward your own creative frontiers. This focus is your most valuable financial asset, far surpassing any stock or investment. It is the engine that guarantees consistent, high-quality execution of your unique plan. To maintain this focus, you must practice strategic indifference to the irrelevant. The moment a piece of information about another's success presents itself, you no longer engage with the emotional current. You greet it with intellectual curiosity. Is this actionable data for my plan? And if the answer is no, you dismiss it completely. Your mind is now a high-value workspace, and you are the uncompromising security guard, denying entry to all thoughts that do not contribute to your defined purpose. This discipline is the daily practice of true freedom. The second pillar of sovereign wealth is emotional equilibrium and psychological resilience. You have achieved emotional mastery over the forces of jealousy and longing. They are no longer chaotic forces that derail your decisions. They are now understood as reliable indicators of where your passion and your fear intersect. You possess the emotional intelligence to feel the intensity of these emotions, decode their message, and channel the raw energy immediately into constructive, strategic action. This resilience is your most powerful defense against the inherent volatility of life. When setbacks occur, and they will, you do not fall into the trap of self-pity or envious lament. You simply pivot, adjust, and refocus, knowing that your power lies not in avoiding the fall, but in the unwavering certainty of your capacity to rise again. Your internal foundation is so strong that no external turbulence can fracture your core confidence. The final, defining element is the uncompromising integrity of your choices. Sovereign wealth is living entirely by your own rules. Your financial decisions, career path, and lifestyle are all direct reflections of your deep, personal purpose, free from the dictation of social comparison. This means your spending is intentional, aimed at increasing your freedom, security, or capacity for meaningful work, not at signaling status. Your investments are chosen for their alignment with your long-term, self-defined goals, not because they are the trending topic of the moment. You have established a profound sense of enoughness, ensuring that every effort you make is aimed at genuine fulfillment, not the pursuit of an ever-receding external goalpost. This integrity generates a quiet, magnetic aura of personal authority. You move through the world with the confidence of someone who is fully self-possessed, whose worth is not contingent on external approval. This authority draws opportunity, trust, and respect, creating a virtuous cycle where your inner sovereignty naturally manifests as outward success. The journey culminates in this powerful realization. True freedom is not the absence of desire, but the ability to direct your desire toward intentional, self-defined creation. You have escaped the cycle of longing and resentment. You have integrated the shadows of your ambition. You have claimed your focus. Sovereign wealth is the life you live when you are the unquestioned master of your own attention, ambition, and internal peace. Go forward now, not to amass a fortune visible to the world, but to forge a destiny that is perfectly, profoundly true to the deep knowing within you. Live with mastery, focus, and the unassailable freedom of a self-determined existence. The ultimate, final prize is this: you are your own fortune.